Welcome to MicroMed Education. I'm Dr. Rachna Solanki, and this is a second lecture of infection control series. So, in our last lecture, we discussed regarding standard precautions, and today we'll discuss first regarding NSI, that is a needle stick injury. So, basically, when there is a needle stick injury, the risk of transmission is highest of hepatitis B virus, that is around 30%, followed by HCV, that is 3%, and HIV, it is 0.3%. This is a frequently asked question during the viva. What is the risk of transmission of the blood-borne viruses? Hepatitis B virus, there is a vaccine available, and the schedule is 0, 1, and 6 months. So there is 3 doses of hepatitis B vaccine. After third dose, 1 to 2 months after the last dose, anti-HBs antibody titer, if it is more than 10 milli-international unit per ml, it suggests you of the person is immune, and there is a long-term protection and no need for further periodic testing, and it is considered as immune. So in NSI, first we have to understand how one can avoid NSI. What are the preventive measures? Always discard the sap in punch-proof container and dispose of it when it is 3/4 full. Vaccination against hepatitis B virus. Observe standard precautions. Immediately dispose of the sharps after their use and don't recap the needle or sharp. Passing of the sharp instrument should be in a non-touch approach through a tray, and during suturing, prefer to use forceps or needle holder for holding the needle. Preoperative testing of a patient for blood-borne viruses, and whenever ideally it is not recommended to recap the needle, and if one has to follow the procedure that is mentioned in this image, there should be no touch technique. If unfortunately an NSI happens, so what are the do's and don'ts? This is a very frequently asked questions in the vivas. Do's and don'ts of NSI. First, understand don'ts. Do not panic. Do not squeeze the injured area. Do not put the injured area in the mouth, and do not use alcohol or betadine. And what one has to do is wash the area with the soap and water. Inform your supervisor. Report to the emergency department or the infection control department, and fill the incident report form. So after an NSI, one has to, as per WHO and NACO strategy, one has to understand the exposure code and the status code. The exposure code and status code then should be correlated, and one can guide whether the PEP is recommended in this condition or not. So what is PEP? PEP is the post-exposure prophylactic that includes taking of the anti-HIV drugs soon after the exposure to prevent the HIV infection. So when the PEP is not recommended, that is very easy to remember for undergraduate student. Will not go in the exclusive exposure code and status code, but try to remember this thing, it will help you. So PP is not recommended when there is exposure to the intact skin or contact with a non-blood specimen like urine, feces, saliva, sweat, tears, or vomiters. There is PP has no role after exposures, 72 hours after the exposure, or when the source is HIV negative. However, it is recommended when you don't know the source or the source is HIV reactive. Mucous membrane or non-intact skin exposure to blood or potentially infectious body fluid, we recommend starting of the PEP. So basically how one should do, what is the regimen, and how one should do a follow-up and testing. As discussed earlier, it should start immediately within 2 hours, but can wait up to 72 hours, no role after 72 hours, and one has to complete it for the 28 days. The treatment regimen preferred as per the latest NACO strategies is triple drug formulation, the tenofovir, lamivudine, and dolutegravir, and it is once daily as a single pill for 28 days. How to do follow-up and testing? First, one has to do a baseline testing of the persons who got an NSI and repeat the HIV test at 6 weeks, 3 months and 6 months after the exposure. Also, when patient is on PPE, monitor drug toxicity by renal and liver functions. So this was discussion regarding HIV. Now what happens to HPV? So as we already discussed, the HPV vaccine gives excellent protection for hepatitis B virus. So when the person is vaccinated and anti-HPS antibody titer is more than 10, it is considered as protected and no action is required. But if the titer is less than 10, so in that case, hepatitis B immunoglobulin and revaccination is recommended. If vaccinated and titer is unknown, check first the titer and manage accordingly. If patient is unvaccinated or incomplete vaccination, again the vaccination should be completed and hepatitis B immunoglobulin. Documented non-responder. Now first one has to understand what do we mean by documented non-responder. A person who has taken twice the or completed twice the full hepatitis B vaccine dosage, means 3 doses twice, means total 6 doses, and then even the titer is not appropriate, like it's less than 10, then these are considered as non-responder, and in this case 2 doses of hepatitis B immunoglobulin 1 month apart is recommended. Now the second thing we'll discuss today is the spillage. So in the spillage, one has to remember 3 important things. Always restrict the site, put a caution site, wear PPE, manage the SAP accordingly, and first get a spillage kit. So if there is a blood or body fluid spillage, first isolate the area, wear PPE, get the kit. If there is a glass particles is present in the spillage, remove it with the help of a forceps, then cover it with the tissue paper or the absorbent material, then pour freshly prepared 1% sodium hypochlorite solution, wait for 20 minutes, collect the tissue paper and throw it in a yellow bag, then mop the area in a circular manner with a floor disinfectant and leave it for the drying. Replace everything that is you have already used from the spillage kit and send this incident report to the ICL. Now this is for the blood and body fluid. If it is urine, one has to remember the steps are same, but do not pour chlorine. The rest of the same are same. Absorb either with the put a tissue paper or absorbent material and remove it and clean with the detergent. In case of stool, feces or vomit, also put the absorbent and remove the solids or the material and then clean it with the detergent solution. The third point we'll discuss is PPE, that is personal protective equipment. As shown in the figure, the personal protective equipment includes goggles, gloves, gown, shoe cover and the face mask. Face mask is generally of various types. In COVID, some people used cotton mask, but the ideal recommended one is 3-ply mask or N95 mask. The N95 mask is basically used for the airborne precautions, for routine standard precautions generally. Now in PPE, the important question is donning and doffing. Donning is a procedure to wear a PPE and doffing is to remove the same. So in this case, one has to remember after performing a hand hygiene during the toning procedure, first they have to wear gown, followed by mask, followed by goggles, and then last gloves. In case of doffing, the procedure is reverse in the steps like first remove the gloves, and when 2 pairs of gloves is removed, remove first pair of gloves, and if only 1 pair of gloves is removed, remove the gloves and perform hand hygiene, then also remove gown followed by goggles, then mask, and again perform the hand hygiene. For PPE, it should be removed just before exiting the patient's room, except the respirator or the mask, which should ideally be removed after they leaving the patient room and closing the door.